Welcome to UtopiaLIVE. Utopia is a global SAP partner providing data-driven business solutions to asset-intensive as well as retail and fashion industries, focused on data quality, migrations, and governance solutions that enable organizations to harness high-quality data to take cost out of their business, maximize operational performance, automate and streamline, and better leverage technology investments. Thanks for joining today. This interactive event is designed to allow you to fuel your initiatives. You're encouraged to be engaged and ask questions from today's subject matter experts. And now, it's time for UtopiaLIVE. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are around the globe. Welcome to UtopiaLIVE. I'm your host, Tom Martin, and today I'm joined by three really exciting guests. And by that, I mean these are three gentlemen that have been there, done that. They own the t-shirt, folks. Three engineers by trade. They've worked their entire careers in maintenance, reliability, leading asset management teams, and now in some instances consulting for those teams. And really, before we jumped online and started the broadcast here today, we were having a quick discussion, and the statement was made: you can't maintain what you don't know. And we're going to dig into exactly what that means in just a moment. But before we do, just some quick housekeeping notes. You'll see at the top of your screen ability to be able to change your views, right? So if you'd like to be able to change your view, perhaps maximize, we're going to be doing some visual displays. You should be able to change the view at the top of your screen. Also, you'll notice on your control panel a chat feature. That chat feature, very, very important. It allows you to submit questions to today's panelists. Today's panelists are, again, all experts in asset management, maintenance, and reliability. And UtopiaLIVE is all about you, answering your questions, fueling your initiatives, and allowing you to overcome your greatest challenges. So tap into their expertise, submit questions now, submit them as we engage in our conversation, submit them when we move to Q&A. Just whatever you do, make sure you submit your questions. And finally, you also see a link in the chat feature as well. And that link is a dynamic interactive scheduling tool that will allow you to schedule time with Utopia subject matter experts following today's chat and throughout the upcoming week. So I encourage you to please do. Again, it's interactive, so it fills up as folks schedule. Go ahead, hit that link right now or throughout the broadcast, schedule that follow-up meeting. Again, informal, conversational. The Utopia team is here to support you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's panelists that are with us. We have Philip Shander. Philip is a former senior staff reliability technologist at a major energy company in North America. We have Peter Ainsley Hartwell, Utopia Global CTO, and also Utopia's Stephen Crampton, Senior Director of Data Acquisition. Philip, Peter, Stephen, good morning, gentlemen, or should I say good evening in some circumstances based on where you are.
Well, morning for me, very early in the morning for Stephen, right?
Very early, but we won't talk about that. It's all good. Good to be here.
And Philip, welcome. Looks like we've got Philip possibly still on mute. We'll try to get him off mute. In the meantime, what you'll notice there is I'm joined by a couple of Australians, and then Philip, a South African, now calling Calgary home. So I'm the only one without a really cool accent on today's broadcast. We'll see, Philip, do we have you back online?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Terrific. Good morning. You call Calgary home. Very special city to me. Love the city. So look forward to seeing you again, hopefully when the COVID-19 days are over. Since today's broadcast has a lot of attention, we've got a lot of attendees logging on today. I know there's a lot of excitement around ways to rapidly improve data quality. I want to jump right into it so we have as much time for questions and answers as we possibly can. So we're going to get started talking about Utopia's Intelligent Data Cloud Platform. And it's a platform for rapidly improving data quality. but it also has subcomponents or modularized components to it. One of those being Utopia's intelligent mobile capture powered by Orbital. Orbital being a solution developed by Stephen Crampton on the line with us today. He's going to tell us a little bit more about that. And it's a solution that's been around for some time that allows asset-intensive organizations to find their missing asset data and do so very rapidly, and includes some really, really smart technologies that even enhances and enriches that data once it's captured and cataloged. But why I'm really excited is, again, we have Philip Shatner here. Philip has spent his career in reliability and maintenance and has used that Orbital, now Utopia Intelligent Mobile Capture solution in the field himself. He and his teams have deployed it, and he has that perspective that we're going to tap into today. So, Philip, without me introducing you too much more, maybe you can introduce yourself and share a little bit more about kind of your background, where you've come from, kind of roles that you've been in, and perhaps the kind of industries that you've been in. So I know you've been in a couple.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you for introducing me, Tom. Yes, my name is Philip Shatner. I am an asset management specialist. I've got a little bit more than 30 years of global experience in various industries. My training is mechanical engineering. I'm registered here in Alberta with PEGA as a professional licensee. My experience was gained mostly in oil and gas. Since about 2002, oil and gas. I've done some work in power generation. I started my career in the iron and steel industry, did quite a bit of work in the mining industry as well. So I worked in organizations. I started working as a technician in the plant doing stuff. Worked as a planning engineer, also as a maintenance manager, as a consultant, and currently, as Tom indicated, I'm an independent consultant from Calgary, Alberta.
Outstanding, Philip. So, you know, you've been involved in the hard maintenance. You've been involved in reliability, and that's why I'm particularly excited to speak with you on the reliability perspective, right? Because what we're going to be talking about today helps drive those advanced reliability and operational programs. So I'm really excited to tap more into that. But Philip, I guess let's start at the basics here. Why, as a maintenance reliability professional, you've been in energy, you've been in metals and mining, no matter what industry that you're in, if it's asset intensive, why is it important to know what assets you have out there in the field?
You know, if you take the logic, most of the industry standards tell you that you have to look at the asset life cycle right from its birth up to its death. Now, in this asset life cycle, you have to start at the point of what does the company own? Okay, so first of all, you must have a complete tag register of the stuff that you own as a company. Then secondly, you have to know of those things that I own, what is maintenance significant and what do I actually have to maintain. Now, if you maintain something, you have to determine what's the criticality or failure of that thing. Now, if you have got a proper view of your assets and you know what you own, that puts you in a position where you can actually define a proper risk mitigation strategy. And that strategy for the specific asset is in all cases based on the class, the type of asset, and then also the specific make and model of that asset that you are using. You know, I started my my career in the iron and steel industry, and there I collected some data myself. We had to, because if you have to work on stuff. But I remember working in the Middle East, a situation where an inspector went out to an unmanned platform, and on this platform, while he had to do PSV inspections, and he discovered on this platform a whole separator train that we had no knowledge of. It was installed at some point in time, must have been through the MOC process, information got lost, and lo and behold, there's a whole train with PSV, safety critical equipment, that was never on the radar of even knowing about them. So you ask me, why is this important, Tom? If you don't know what you have, and you don't know the specifics of what you have, it's impossible, first of all, to set up a strategy to maintain the risk of failure, and secondly, to execute on that strategy. That is the key fundamental foundational layer of data that you need in any proper asset management system.
Yeah, absolutely, Philip. And you know, again, tapping into your vast array of experience You've been at multiple different asset management, asset intensive organizations rather, throughout your career. Have you found the same thing, or the same, I guess, kind of case to be prevalent in each of those companies? A lot of companies, at least based on our customer data reviews, show us that at least 40% of their asset data is generally missing out of their systems of record. Is that something that you would say historically that you found too, that this is not just something that occurred at one company you were at, this is a ubiquitous challenge that's out there?
Absolutely, this is pervasive, Tom. Anybody that's worked in this industry knows it's easy to talk the talk, but it's not easy to walk the talk. Always when you go into these situations where you go and look at what is my actual assets out there, you find, oh my goodness, handover from EPCs never properly happened. And if it happened, it is outdated. So the reality is that we always end up with a partial view of what we have. Now, most of you would know the book by Jim Reason on human error. Jim Reason expounds quite a bit on what he calls blind risk or blind error. So that is the stuff that you don't know about. I mean, what you don't know is the most critical, in my opinion, that can bite you at times that you don't expect it. The example that I quoted earlier on that separator train. So this is pervasive. Where I was in the iron and steel industry, it was huge. Where I worked in South Africa, a little bit in the power generation industry, that was better, but still a big issue. Where I worked in chemicals, in the chemicals industry, that was quite something. It was an old plant, and that's always an issue. And then when I started working in the Middle East in the oil and gas, it was always the case that the significant component, first of all, know what you have. Well, some of that you don't even know about it. If you know what you have, is what is the detail of this thing? That data is always missing, and it always bites the process. It limits the effectiveness of any asset management process.
Now, Philip, I think there are basically two different camps then, if I'm understanding you correctly, that you have one camp that just kind of has the blinders on, doesn't understand, or perhaps in some instances might not even be too concerned about the fact that they don't know what assets they actually have deployed in their facilities, plants, or out in the field, right? And then you have that other group that realizes that this is a major challenge, and they go about solving for that challenge in a really manual effort, time-consuming based kind of approach or model. Can you explain a little bit more about kind of that historical approach to field data capture that you and your teams have deployed in the past before you became aware of the Ordinal solutions?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest issues there is that in many field data capture efforts, the field is missing. So what I mean by that, a lot of it is just capturing data from data. You are literally taking data that you already own, or information, unstructured information that you already own, and try to capture that. But that's still disconnected from what is really outside in the field. So I mean, working as a technician, I myself walked around with a clipboard and paper and write stuff. Get back to the office and it's too dirty. The fat fingers just got it too dirty. So you cannot really get the data properly. So historically, you send people out to verify what is in the field. But big field data collection efforts doesn't even get to the field where you started. If I remember from the previous employer where I worked, we had a new phase, and we employed Utopia, which did a great job for us to capture all the EPC data. Sad to say that we literally took all the information that we paid millions of dollars for, we gave it to a company, Utopia, and they had to retype it back into our own standards. But that's still disconnected from the field. That's still disconnected. Then we realized, okay, we have to now go and verify what was installed, because what serial number is in today, we don't know. So that is when we started to use the Ordinal solution. A colleague of mine introduced me to Stephen, and then that is how we started using that solution about 2015, about 5 years ago.
So Philip, so kind of just putting things in perspective. Historically, organizations, you've got generally senior level resources, senior level operations, maintenance folks, or expensive contractors out there, clipboards, pens, pencils, out in the field, doing the best they can to try to record some sloppy information. That then has to get transcribed into a system of record, or CWMS. This just seems so wrought with inaccuracy and inefficiency. You then move to Orbital, and it became as simple as using a mobile device and taking a photo of the asset, or the asset nameplate, or the physical labels on the asset. Can you tell us a little bit more kind of about that transition and what that did for efficiency and accelerating field data capture?
So let me tell you a little bit of a story. When I was in this position where we had, the company where I worked at, I was responsible for data management and performance measurement. So on the data management side, when I heard about this Orbital solution, in my mind I said, yeah, right, let's see what comes from this. So what I did is we engaged with Stephen at Orbital, and we sent him approximately 200 photos. I think, Stephen, I can't remember the exact number, but what I did come again?
Neither can I remember the exact number.
Okay, so I'm not the only guy. Yeah. So what I did, I took the exact 200 photos and I gave it to 2 of my data clerks, and then I asked them to collect the data, the basics, make, model, serial number, that kind of stuff, the key information. And then when I got it back from Stephen, where he followed his process, and these data clerks of mine, I compared the results, okay, of these 2 data sets. And I compared the cost. I know what we pay for a data clerk. We know what we paid for the extraction that Orbital did for us. And the value was clear. There was no 2 things about it in terms of quality, accuracy, the accuracy of the data, the quality, and that's nothing bad to say about the data clerks. They were great people. They know this stuff. But one person reading a photo comes out with a possible view. The way that Orbital does this is just so much more efficient and so much more accurate in the way that the data is extracted. So that is what we found there. Then we moved on to do a small plant that the company purchased, a rail terminal. Very little information, very good results. And then we went over to one of the big plants. We prioritized the critical assets and took photos. We employed an inspection company who knew the plant. The capture of the photos itself was expensive there, because you know what inspectors cost. But the quality of the photos and the outcome of the data was really good. And then we moved over to the other big plant. At that stage, the cost pressure was too high, and then one of the maintenance superintendents suggested that he will use instrument technicians, that in time that they have to take, they knew the plant very well, they focused on data instrument technician, and that also worked well. But that is the approach that we took. So the best outcome we had was where we had good quality photos taken, where the people knew the plant, and that was the result that we got going through this phase of approximately 3, maybe 4 years, if I remember correct, Stephen. About 3 or 4 years.
About 4 years, 3 or 4 years, yeah. Correct.
Excellent, Philip. And just help us real quick, because we've got a lot to pack in here today. Just help us close the loop. So you can't maintain what you don't know. The Orbital solution, now Utopia Intelligent Mobile Capture, still powered by that powerful Orbital backend, excuse me, has allowed organizations to find that missing asset data. What does that allow you then to do? As a reliability professional, as a maintenance professional, what does that allow your organization to do, Philip?
Well, at the very core, most of us know your process is only as good as the quality of your data. So if you send someone out with the wrong spares to a piece of equipment, well, guess what happens? You lose a lot of efficiencies. You may even just introduce a risk that you're not aware of by installing the wrong spares on a piece of equipment. So the value of the complete asset management process, and that process is primarily, let's face it, anybody that's been in maintenance and reliability, there's only one purpose we work, and that's the failure of the asset. You want to mitigate that risk of failure. Now, if you do not have that process efficient, your risk of failure goes up. It's just a reality. So on the safety critical side, you run the risk of killing people and destroying the environment. On the other side, you run the risk of significant inefficiencies, especially in your planning process, your scheduling process. that whole process around asset management is so reliant on accurate asset information. By asset information, I mean the piece of equipment, its total bill of material, the correct material, the correct piece of equipment. All the processes are only as good and efficient as the data is. I would make that statement categorically, and most of us on this call would know that. That is the reality.
Absolutely. Philip, thank you for that powerful perspective. We really appreciate being able to tap into your expertise. You've been there, you've used the Ordinal, now Utopia Intelligent Mobile Capture Solution, and helped drive reliability maintenance programs. You can't maintain what you don't know. That solved the problem, accelerated the process, and led to a more accurate, less costly results. Great to speak with you, Philip, and tap into your expertise as always. Stephen, you and Philip work together on several of these projects. Now, you are the founder and creator. You're the origin of Ordinal, and you're now proudly a member of the Utopia family. Stephen, you're going to show us a little bit more about kind of the Ordinal UIMC, Utopia Intelligent Mobile Capture Solution. Now, give us some visuals.
Okay, so just need to show my screen. And collapse it, I guess. There we go. Sorry, I'm having a few technical issues here.
No worries. You've got your deck up.
I've got my deck up. I hope you're seeing that.
Yep.
Yeah, really quickly, it's just trying to take a different approach to how we go and collect data. What we're trying to do is say, I just want to collect photos. People collect information on photos. If you're in a meeting and somebody writes something up on a whiteboard, you're not going to write it down, you'll take a photo. Philip talked about inaccuracies of human behavior. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, I want to go write down serial numbers. So for that reason alone, it's really inaccurate. So what we say is we don't want you to go and enter data, we just want you to take photos. But we do it in such a way with a mobile app that allows you to structure it. So we don't want you to enter data. We can present some data so that you can find your critical assets, but it's all about some big buttons to go and find what you're looking for, add photos, and capture it really quickly. So the key thing is, once I've taken my photo, me as a field guy, I've finished. That's the end of the story. There's no back office work. It's just get out there, take photos, but take them in a classified way so that I know what is in each of the photos. We get great results with all levels of people, and I'd concur with Philip that instrument techs are a great resource for doing this sort of work, but we can do that at scale, and that's the key thing. But then we've got to turn that data into knowledge. So we're all about classifying and cataloging those photos with the mobile app. And then we use different processing techniques to get that data out. The data that we're capturing has generally been in the field for several years, a long time in hazardous, dirty, corrosive environments. So we use multiple techniques to get the data out. So we're not just relying on one. So 3 of the most common ones is detection, text recognition, and crowdsourcing. So in this example here, there's no legible text on the photo, but we've seen so many Baldor electric motors, we can detect that that's exactly what it is. And the next one, we can get some text recognition, and we're able to determine what the serial number is. And in the last one here, I've asked a non-text-based question. I've said, what direction is the rotation of that compressor? And that's with crowdsourcing. And crowdsourcing is what really powers machine learning. It's how we build all our reference data to then train machine learning models. But that same technology allows us to get responses back from humans in a measured, controlled way, but to do it at scale. And what we're doing is asking people for their input. But each of these is only what we call a potential result. until I get multiple independent results, I don't believe it. And I'm going to show you a quick example. So this nameplate here, and by the way, any of the examples we show, we're not going to show you pretty brand new nameplates. The reality is they look like this.
Exactly.
In this case, we detected that it's a Siemens nameplate because we've seen so many Siemens nameplates. But a human has also said it's Siemens. So I've got two independent results. I accept that. In this case here, it's pretty good looking nameplate, and the text recognition got that it was a Westinghouse nameplate. A human also said it was Westinghouse. Two independent results. I'm happy with that. In this case, we're able to get text recognition that it's Fisher, a human, and we detected that it was a Fisher, so I've got two independent results. I accept it. In this case here, I couldn't do object detection. We've got nothing from object detection, and we got nothing from text recognition. But I got two humans that said that is a Worthington piece of equipment. And that's what we do, multiple independent results. But how I do it in the background is less important than how you collect it at the front end. That's the key thing where you make or break the economics of it. That we can give you a mobile device where very short training, and the training's typically around how do I want you to take a photo, delivered remotely with your people or your contractors to go and take those photos, and then at the back end we do all the processing and get data of measurable quality back to you. So we're doing all the interpretation by continuously improving methods to get accurate data out at the back end. But the key to it is that simple, fast capture at the front end. That's where you make or break the economics of it. So typically in a traditional walk down, you might do 40 to 70 per day. We're trying to get upwards of 200 a day. And instead of having to have an engineer out there that understands all the nameplates so that you get consistent data, we'll put an instrument tech out there to go and do it. So that's where it's about, trying to speed up the front end and have reliable processing at the back end. So that's what we've been doing for 4 or 5 years. It was a great project working with Philip and his team. We had a lot of success as demonstrated by doing multiple projects over many years. So yeah, it works, and there's a lot of kind words there from Philip about his experience with it. But yeah, we're really proud of the work we did in that particular set of projects.
So Steve, intelligent mobile capture powered by Wordle, it's all about speed. It's speed, it's accuracy, and it cuts the expense of field data capture. I think it's an incredible solution, and you only scratched the surface for folks today. I encourage them to hit that link in the chat box, schedule a follow-up meeting if they'd like to learn more, because to me, it's the back end of what Wordle does that is even more impressive. I mean, you gave us a little bit of a glimpse into the crowdsourcing, and that crowdsourcing, of course, can be the public anonymized crowdsourcing, if you wish, or it can be internal within your own organization or company. It can be set up that way that your own internal teams are the ones helping and providing that crowdsourcing validation, or it can be within Utopia's teams of subject matter experts and engineers that are acting as that crowd. So it's not just this ubiquitous kind of huge crowd out there, and of course information being shared publicly. Of course, we're talking about image mapping, image recognition, text recognition, machine learning. This is all occurring on the cloud. Folks can download this on an Android device, on an Apple device, iOS, and it works, and offline functionality as well. Stephen, my hat's off to you. Incredible solution. Thanks for giving us kind of a quick look underneath the hood, if you will. And again, encourage folks to kind of learn more about Utopia Intelligent Mobile Capture powered by Oracle. Thanks, Stephen.
Okay.
So, Peter, we're going to turn to you. You've been silent so far. Very, very odd for you. I know you and I can talk forever. You are Utopia's CTO, but in a prior life, you haven't always been a CTO. Tell us a little bit more about your background, Peter, and I think that'll help kind of explain the story a little bit further.
Yeah, thanks very much, Tom. Like Philip, I'm actually a mechanical engineer by profession. certified engineer in Australia. What's actually interesting is I got into the IT world because the company I was working for got bought, and we were running Maximo as a CMMS system, and I got told I had 6 months to move everything from Maximo over to an SAP system. So I had a very steep learning curve about learning SAP, and I've been in the SAP world now since about 1995. So worked all the way through to the current versions of S4. One of the things that we always found when we were doing SAP projects, the most critical aspect of any SAP project was getting the data right. If you loaded rubbish in, then all of the money you spent on the nice new processes and everything in SAP just didn't work because the data was wrong. And then people blamed the system and says, you know, the system is crap because it doesn't work, but the real reason was that the data was wrong that went into it. So at Utopia, that's what we focus on, making sure that the data that goes into these systems is correct, that it's accurate, that it's as enriched and complete as possible. So that's what we do.
So terrific, Peter. And, you know, we've talked about finding that missing asset data. Now we're going to transition as part of Utopia's broader intelligent data cloud platform into how do we take all forms of data, whether it's the data that Philip and Stephen have now just recently found out in the field, or whether it's data that's living in structured and unstructured formats throughout various systems of record. How do we find all of that data and then improve its accuracy, improve its completeness, and ensure that we have complete, highly accurate, highly enriched master data throughout all of our systems of record? We're going to be talking about Utopia intelligent data enrichment now, Peter. So I guess to kind of lay the context, real brief, what is the business value of high quality asset data?
Yes, I think that's important, Tom. People don't go out to collect this data or need or want high quality data just because they want high quality data, right? What they want to do is they want to make sure that they can deliver what they've been asked to deliver by their business, right? The value of high quality data has many, many aspects to it. One of the most important ones, as Philip alluded to, is improving the maintenance productivity, increasing what's called maintenance wrench time. The amount of time that people actually spend with tool in hand going and actually doing maintenance work, as opposed to running around trying to find the right spare part, running around trying to find the right documentation, making sure that we give our maintenance technicians the right information to be able to go and do their job efficiently and effectively. You can't do that without high quality data. It helps reduce MRO supply chain costs. It's all about making sure that you know what spare parts are needed for the equipment that's out in your plant. But more importantly as well, knowing that every spare part you've got in your warehouse, you know what equipment it's for. If you've got something in your warehouse and you don't know where that equipment is getting used, why do you have it in your warehouse, right? So the ability to identify obsolete inventory comes from having high quality data about your equipment, about your assets out in the plant. And it minimizes the expedited procurement. All of us, or many of us, have worked in very remote areas where many times if you had to get a spare part on an emergency, the only way you got it was flying it in. And the cost of flying it in was 10 times the cost of the spare part, right? If you knew that you needed that spare part earlier, you could have done it on a normal delivery, got it delivered a month earlier, have it sitting there ready for you to use. So there's a lot of advantages in the supply chain by making sure that you have high quality data. And of course, auditability, making sure that you know what you've got. As Philip alluded to, having a whole separator train out on an unmanned platform that you didn't even know you had with PSD and safety critical items on it and not even knowing you had it, opens yourself up to huge auditory, regulatory compliance issues that you just can't afford to have, right? And around increasing operational efficiency, making sure that the equipment is always available when operations need it, right? That's the job of the maintenance department, right? Making sure that the equipment is there when it needs to be there and that it's operating at its full capability. Having the high quality data, having the accurate, complete data about that is important and critical to making sure that you can achieve that result, increasing OEE, overall equipment effectiveness for our plants, yeah? And of course, the whole thing around environmental health and safety. The most important thing for us to do is to protect our people and protect our environment. We only have one world, as I say, and we need to make sure that we're protecting that. And our people, we have to make sure that when they come to work, they go home to families and so on in the same condition that they came to work in. So making sure that we are minimizing environmental health and safety risks is absolutely critical. And
couldn't agree with that anymore, Peter.
Yeah,
couldn't agree with that anymore.
That's the most critical part. You know, looking after our people and looking after our environment is absolutely paramount. And then, of course, in the current environment, reducing costs, operational excellence, right? Going and being able to adopt all of these very sophisticated maintenance strategies, reliability-centered maintenance, RBI, all that sort of stuff is all dependent on having the correct data about the correct assets that you have out in your plant. So it's not just about collecting the data and making sure that it's high quality enables you to do all these other things, yeah? And it's a critical foundational element to that.
So Peter, I think we should probably break up the conversation about Utopia Intelligent Data Enrichment, an incredible component of the Utopia Intelligent Data Cloud Platform, into maybe two conversations: getting the data and then fixing the data. And Utopia Intelligent Data Enrichment does both of those things very, very well through some very smart technologies. Peter, a little bit more. We're in this era of big data. The organizations, they have so many systems of record. You've got engineering systems, operational systems, CWMS maintenance systems, the IoT explosion of sensors. You've got data coming in literally from every crack and crevice. How does UIDE, Utopia Intelligent Data Enrichment, solve for this, what potentially could be a data nightmare with data in so many different types and formats? How does Utopia Intelligent Data Enrichment handle that?
Yeah, and I'll show a demo of that or a recording of that later. But at the end of the day, we have data in all sorts of formats, as you said. We have data from our systems, multiple systems, CMMS systems, SCADA systems, reliability engineering systems. We have searchable PDF documents. You still get spec sheets from manufacturers as PDF documents. We have stuff that's handwritten. We have pictures and so on that's been collected. And we have handwritten and we have scanned documents. All of these form a source of data. And what we want to do is we want to be able to get all of these sources of data together, extract as much information as we can from these sources of data, and being able to go from descriptions that look like this, where we have information all over the place, different orders, different structures, different abbreviations and so on, and being able to get it to a nicely structured format where everything is in the same place, everything is in the same order, everything has the same structure. Even with the most advanced search engines that you can use, it will still work much better if you have clean, structured, standardized data that you're searching on, right? Because the aim is to go from small amounts of data like this that we often see in systems where you don't have all the information that you need, to be able to get to a fully enriched record that looks like this, where we are able to identify the manufacturer, the part number, go and give you a vendor URL where you can go and search for additional information if you want it. Provide nicely standardized short and long text and descriptions. Provide things like UNSPSC codes, class, split it out into characteristics and characteristic values, and then be able to load that into a repository that you can use it in an ongoing manner. So that's really the value of UIDE, to enable you to take minimalist sort of information from different sources, combine that all together, and come out with a nice, cleansed, standardized set of information.
Absolutely, Peter. And again, it all goes back to the greater Utopia Intelligent Data Cloud Platform being cloud-based. It's a SaaS tool. It's meant to be flexible for customers. And what it allows organizations to do is just exactly what we're talking about today. Rapidly improve data quality. Keyword on rapidly. It cuts the cost that organizations historically have had to pay hundreds, if not thousands of man hours, work hours for consultants to come in and actually do this work by hand, manually. This cloud-based SaaS tool now doing that rapidly at a fraction of the time and of the cost. Very exciting stuff, Peter. Want to learn a little bit more about the smart technologies behind the data extraction and then the data enrichment. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point, Tom. So as you said, we've been doing this for a long time. We've now got to the point where we're able to create a platform that enables us to do all of the different steps that you need to do in a single platform, fully integrated. One of the things that people think is that, oh, you can have something where you say, hey, it's dirty data. I feed it in one engine, I get clean data out the other. You can do that, but you have to do it in different steps. So we've actually managed to put together the different steps that you actually need to be able to do that into the Utopia Intelligent Data Cloud Platform. The first part is what Stephen talked about and Philip talked about, the mobile capture, the intelligent mobile capture. Let's make it easy for people to go and capture the data. Once I've got that data, let's feed it into an engine that enables us to combine those different sources of data together, to be able to classify it, cleanse it, and then enrich it as well. Go and find other sources that may be related. Go and find sources from the website and bring information in from there. Go and connect to, say, for instance, SAP's Asset Intelligence Network, where the OEMs are providing information. Use those sources of data to enrich the information that you've been able to collect. And then finally, go and connect and control, being able to go and feed that data back to different systems, being able to feed it back to your SCADA system, feed it back to your reliability engineering system, and being able to control it, put a level of control and governance around the information that's in the system. And it uses multiple tools to do that. Yes, it's got a combination of things like machine learning, the public-private cloud sourcing that that was mentioned, image recognition, automated enrichment. So each of these different steps in the process use a combination of these tools to make sure that the result that we get out can be trusted, right? And then, like I said, the connect part allows us to connect to different systems. So that's what the whole intelligent data cloud platform enables us to do. It's a accumulation of the 18 years of experience that we've had working with data to be able to put this all into one platform that allows people to manage the data from, as we say, capture to control. Yeah.
Absolutely, Peter. And I know there's a lot of hype around it right now. Again, for what it does in terms of accelerating data quality programs and cutting costs and cutting literally a fraction of the time and the cost that has been spent historically. So I certainly credit you and your teams for the incredible work behind this solution. I see you're pulling up some more visuals for us to take a look at right now. Go ahead, walk us through.
As they say, right, everything works really well in PowerPoint, right? And I thought that rather than just showing PowerPoints and pretty slides, I'd show you a recording of uIDE in practice. And what I'll show you is two steps, one which is around processing some data and being able to pass it out and enrich it. And the second one is about identifying alternate suppliers and alternate parts based on information that you can feed in. So if you have a look, we can actually take data from different types. So we can go and take a picture that was collected from the field from IMCE. We can go and enter some information that we know. So for instance, class, part number, that sort of information. So we can go and enter that information, enter a manufacturer, enter a part number, and we can also go and collect a whole heap of text, long text from different sources, right? So we're using this combination of inputs to say, hey, we've got a whole heap of information. Let me now go and process it. So what we do when we go and process it is, number one, we take that information that we actually got given, and we're combining all that together to actually try to identify manufacturer, part number, and so on. But in addition to that, we're going out and we're doing web scraping. We're going out and seeing what other information we can find. We're going and referring to the SAP Asset Intelligence network and see if we can find information there. When we find that information, we bring it all back together. We compare the information and we say, hey, these are the sets of attributes that we think from that combined set of information that we can populate. And of course, you're able to edit it if you want to. If you don't, you can just go ahead and populate. So you can see now that we've actually updated an equipment record, and this is actually going in SAP's AIN. So you can see that we've populated attributes. We've updated the manufacturer, the model number, the template. We've provided a whole heap of long text in addition to the information that was provided originally. So we've been able to process all that information, right, and go ahead and attach documents. So we've got a picture of the copy of the nameplate that we actually used. So that whole auditability trail is there as well. So we know exactly where this information came from. But what about the next step? The next step is, okay, so what if I wanted to say, who else can I buy this particular item from? So now we're getting into the alternate parts and supplier option. So I can put a manufacturer, I can put a part number, I can put a class, and the system will now go and search for people that sell that particular item. So in this particular case, it's going out doing a web search, and you can see that it actually found 5 alternate suppliers. We provide you with the supplier, with the name, phone number, contact number, and even price sometimes. And then you can go and click directly on those links and put it into, put and see that the item is actually the replacement item, yeah? Now, the other thing that you can do is, it's all very fine saying, okay, that's great, I know where I can buy exactly the same item, but what about now if I want to know where an alternate part is? Now I can actually go and find, oh, that went a bit quick. I can actually now go and find alternate parts. So now I've said, hey, for that same part, there are alternatives that I can use, right? I can go and use a bell door motor. I can go and use a different type of motor. So what we do then is the same thing. We provide you with the web links, and we provide you with then the comparison of those particular parts as well, so you can decide whether they are really true replacement parts. So now we're able to provide not just the combination of all the data that we were able to collect. Now we're extending that out to alternate suppliers and alternate parts for the item that you are able to identify. So that's the strength of the uIDE solution, yeah.
That's incredible, Peter. So not only has uIDE been able to take in all of these various different forms, formats, different systems, operations, engineering, maintenance, supply chain, can go on forever. Take in all of this data, but then enrich that data in a highly automated, cloud-based way that it does so in a fraction of the time and the cost than it has been done historically. And you just actually showed us, or gave us a quick little demo of the business value that can be achieved when you have that high quality data, that complete asset master data like that. And ultimately, to me, that's a story of, as I like to call it, keeping the lights on. I mean, that's operational continuity right there. If you have an asset that is broken down on a production line, it's a critical asset, and you don't have that spare in-house, you need to find that from a sister facility, or you need to be able to source that functionally equivalent spare from a local facility or a regional facility as well to get that line back up and running every second that line is down. It costs the organization money. That's awesome, Peter.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Knowing what you've got is great. And if you can't get the same thing, you need to know what you can replace it with. Yeah. So providing that capability, I think, is a huge benefit to operators.
Absolutely, Peter. Absolutely. I couldn't agree any further. We still have your looks like a Fiori screen up right now. Do we have anything further to take a look at?
Nope, that's it from me.
Excellent, Peter. Thank you again for that. And you know what we have. I'm now going to kind of transition over. I've been weaving in some questions as we move through the conversation, but we have some time now for questions. So I'd like to encourage all of our attendees. Go ahead, open up that question or chat box, type in your questions, go ahead and get those submitted. We'll try to get through as many as possible with the remaining time, and we'll go ahead and follow up with any that we're not able to get to. So please go ahead, do those submissions right now. Quick audio check. Peter, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Very good. Okay. Peter, I guess a question coming in here, a couple different questions saying that we're talking about machine learning. Can you go a little bit more into more detail around the machine learning component or aspect to Utopia Intelligent Data Enrichment?
Yeah, sure. We've been doing like data quality enrichment, data quality cleansing for a long time. Started out using people and spreadsheets, moved to tools like ETL tools and rule-based tools, but we found that that wasn't actually giving us the results that we needed. So we actually started about 3.5 years ago using the machine learning algorithms, and there's many machine learning algorithms out there. People talk about machine learning as though it's one thing, right? You have neural networks, with embedding, you have clustering, you have all sorts of different algorithms. And just like humans, each of these machine learning algorithms do different things better than they do other things. So what we've been doing is making sure that we've been selecting the best machine learning algorithms for each of the steps that we need to do in order to go from the dirty data to the cleansed and enriched data. So we use multiple machine learning algorithms. Most of our stuff is based on the AWS platform, so we're using AWS to actually run our machine learning algorithms. And we've actually then combined machine learning algorithms, just like Stephen was saying, where you use multiple outputs. If you get the same output from 2 different machine learning algorithms, then pretty sure that the answer is correct. Now, if you get different answers, then you need the human expert to go and have a look at it and say, hey, this is what the correct answer is, and then provide that feedback to the machine learning algorithm. So next time they get it right. Yeah.
Absolutely, Peter. I think that makes good sense. Philip, swinging back to you, looks like we have some fellow reliability folks on the line with us here today, wanting to understand a little bit more about how you've seen field data collection and the efficiencies behind the Ordinal, now Utopia Intelligent Mobile Capture solution. How did that empower reliability initiatives at the organizations that you've been with?
So I would say the biggest component would be the preparation or the setting up of the maintenance strategy. The stuff that goes into your maintenance strategy, your task list, the bill of materials. So if you let a reliability engineer define a proper work plan on what to do, in essence, if you look at the steps, he can come up with that because he's competent. But as soon as you get into the specifics, in other words, what do you need to go and do this? And I'm talking specifically the spare parts, the material that you need. And then also, if you talk about the performance of a piece of equipment, what specific piece of equipment are we talking about? That enables them to set up a proper plan. Now, the weaker that plan is, the less efficient your process is. If that plan is proper and set out in detail, clearly the downstream process is much more efficient. So I would say the biggest benefit is in that efficiency if you look at it from the dollars to maintenance cost. I would argue that the biggest benefit that you have on the risk side is the mitigation of failure. Now, as we know in the reliability world, all of you that work there, if you do your job right, you get fired because you're not needed anymore, isn't it? So unfortunately, when you are very good, if you don't have management with sufficient insights into how these things stick together, ultimately, if you reduce the risk of failure sufficiently, then the focus gets lost. But that doesn't take away from our responsibility as engineers and as reliability and maintenance professionals to mitigate the risk as far as possible, because ultimately we have to look out for the well-being of people, first of all, the companies we work for, and the financial stability thereof. So I would say those are the two big components. On the one side, the efficiency, that always gets a focus because everybody looks at the dollars at the end of a quarter. But the other side, the risk mitigation, unfortunately, is kind of missed at many times. So if you look at efficiency versus effectiveness, both of those gain when you have proper data that you bring to bear on the problem.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Philip. Both efficiency and effectiveness need to be monitored, and they gain by having high quality data, right? Absolutely.
Peter, we'll stay with you for the next question that just came in. The question ultimately asking, does the solution, the uIDCP solution as a whole, is it able to connect data with supplier to ensure that obsolete parts are highlighted automatically?
We can identify, as you saw, that was what I showed you was running in the SAP Asset Intelligence Network. Part of that network is to have the OEMs being able to identify obsolete parts. So they send out a notification that says, hey, this part that you're using is now obsolete and this is the replacement. Or it's going to be obsolete, or it's going to have end of life in 6 months. You need to start planning for it. So that was one of the reasons why the uIDE runs inside AIN, so that you can actually take advantage of that collaborative network and having OEMs provide that information directly to you via the Asset Intelligence Network.
Absolutely. The network of networks connecting suppliers, manufacturers, partners alongside of your data so that you have a full end-to-end transparency of your asset data landscape. Truly powerful for empowering the digital twin. Stephen, turning back to you, a question around photographs. We're taking photographs. What goes along with these photographs in terms of metadata? Folks are interested in what other kind of data might be captured when we're actually capturing those photos.
The main thing we're trying to do is taking one step back. The reason for going for photos is we don't want to be capturing too much. We want to get what we get very accurately, so we want people to capture the photos. The metadata that we'll get is what type of photo? Is it a nameplate photo? Is it a vendor label? And from that, we can determine what's going to be in those photos. Sure, you can add data into the app, so you can be entering data or having pick lists on the app. But generally, I tend to disregard data that's entered in the field because it's just too unreliable. So we like to try to construct a workflow where we're relying on the photos alone. But if you have a specific workflow where you do need to collect any other data, it's completely configurable as to what other data and pick lists that you might want to put onto it. But we do try to generate a workflow that relies on the photos alone, because our experience is you'll get fantastic photos and really accurate photos and well classified photos with all range of personnel. The data that's actually entered, that's a different story. So we're trying to stay away from that, even though technically we can do it.
Absolutely. That brings us to the top of the hour. I see that we still have questions rolling in. That means the audience really engaged today in today's discussion around rapidly improving asset data quality. We will go ahead and follow up with those questions. So thank you for submitting those. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our panel. Stephen, Philip, Peter, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your expertise and your experience here today. Again, to all of our audience, we've had a crew on this panel today that's been there, done that. They own the t-shirt. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of today's panel.
You're most welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent, gentlemen. And of course, to all of our attendees, thank you for joining today. We look forward to sharing more information around Utopia's intelligent data cloud platform, a revolutionary new cloud-based SaaS solution. Cut those costs, cut the time and effort necessary to improve the quality of your asset master data with the new platform. If you'd like to learn more, go ahead, go to the chat box, see the link to schedule a meeting with the Utopia subject matter experts, again, to learn more. It could be a demo. You can see Peter and his team eager to provide demos on the solution and the various components therein. And until we see each other again on the next Utopia Live, I'd like to offer everyone on behalf of the Utopia team continuing health and well-being. Thanks for joining today, and we'll see you on the next Utopia Live.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining today. We trust you found the content to be valuable and hope that it will help fuel your initiatives. You will soon receive an email with a recording of today's Utopia Live, along with the presentation deck and a link to schedule a follow-up discussion with today's subject matter experts. Utopia looks forward to helping solve your greatest business challenges. For more information and to view all prior Utopia Lives, visit utopiainc.com/live.